All right, welcome everyone. It's that time of year for me. I love this time of year. A time for reflection and looking forward as well. And we're going to talk about some of the albums all of the albums I listened to in 2024. This is albums I listened to for the first time in 2024. Nothing else, all right? First time listens. Now, you might recall a year ago, I did a tier list with throwing everything together into one tier list, which that was fun. I had a lot of fun doing that. And by everything, I mean like movies, games, TV shows, and my albums all in one. I had fun doing that, a lot of fun. But this year, I'm going to separate them out and put them in the spot where people care about them more, you know? So, talk about music here. I'm going to talk about the albums. Now, first glance here, I would say, first of all, it doesn't look like much, which is true. You know, you can churn through tons of albums if you're really putting effort into it. I just didn't put enough effort. And second of all, it's even kind of much less than it even looks in terms of what I'm going to be able to talk about. And I'll explain that when I get to it. There's a chunk where all kinds of blends together for me a bit. A fun thing I did this time, which I didn't do last year when I had my few albums mixed in with the tier list, is I also mixed in movie soundtracks for movies that are musicals. So not just soundtracks for every movie that has a soundtrack available, but soundtrack where the music is sung like original songs or like original versions of songs, you know, not just like That's Life by Frank Sinatra. You know what I mean. So there's only a few in there, but spice things up a bit. I also have them listed in order of when I heard them for the first time. Okay? So let's just get into it. Talk it through. Tier list S through F. See how it goes. 2025, I'm looking to listen to a lot more albums, and hopefully I can be a lot more regimented about it. Because I love experiencing new music. So this is really a shame. This is the only new music I experienced. And it's pretty limited in scope if once you see what everything is. First up is the soundtrack for The Color Purple, the 2023 remake. The Color Purple came out at the very end of 2023, in December, and so I ended up watching it in January 4th for the first time. And so just barely makes the list here. And when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh wow, I actually never listened back to this soundtrack since watching the movie. I went back and dabbled into it to like refamiliarize myself a bit. And like, wow, there's some good stuff in here. But to what I'm saying, to what I just said, it's not exactly a soundtrack I'm going to go back to and be listening to all the time. It perfectly fits the vibe and the tone of the movie itself. And can't deny how like there's a lot of soul in it. There's some really somber, sad ballads. There's also really fun, jovial songs mixed in as well. So it's really good, runs the gamut, and it perfectly meshes with the movie and the peaks and valleys of the tone that movie brings. But really, Fantasia's brilliant in this. Others like Taraji P. Henson are also great, like Danielle Brooks. There's a great cast and some great singers all in there. Like they all do great with their songs. Fantasia in particular, I think that last number just really, really elevates the soundtrack for me. But it's tough. Like I don't know how high to put it. I think I'm gonna put it in B, in terms of it's really good. Super effective, like in beautiful performances, vocal performances in here, but it's not necessarily like an album I would listen to over and over again. I don't think. Maybe suddenly I'll start listening to it, but I think it's like a time and a place sort of thing. Next up is Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande. If you don't know, I'm a big Ariana Grande fan, actually. I've listened to every album of hers, and I really like all of them. And any new music she comes out, even though I don't really like it at first, it ends up growing on me because I'll just listen to it, and then the repetition just makes it grow on me. And by the end of it, I'm like, wow, I love this album. This one didn't take long for me. I really liked it. I do want to first shout out that thought it was amazing that Ariana Grande based her album loosely inspired by Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, one of my favorite movies. And you can see that the name, but also the one music video she did, was directly an homage to that movie. So I don't know if she ever talked on it, if it's like a significant movie to her or what, but it's very clear here. So I like that. And some great music here. I think it's A tier for me. A tier. I might rearrange some stuff later. We'll see. Next up is Tyla. Tyla was big for me this year. Like, I kind of fell in love with her. One of my favorite artists now to listen to. And just love her voice. I love the vibe. She's kind of the one who was my gateway drug into like Afrobeats music. I've been getting really more and more into that genre. It's one of my favorites now. And this album was great. It's amazing. I'm inclined to go S tier here. So that's where I'll stick it for now. Cowboy Carter by Beyonce. I'll just say straight out the gate, this is nowhere near as good as Renaissance. As someone who's kind of like a new Beyonce fan, fan is a loose way to say it. I saw her like in person because I took my girlfriend to see her for her birthday in concert. Huge stadium, amazing, the best concert I've been to. She's an amazing live performer, no doubt about it. Once in a generation talent. And Renaissance, I love that album. It's an excellent album. Cowboy Carter, it's got some highs and some lows, and it's not one I really go back to. I haven't gone back to it since I first listened to it. So it's going to be a C for me. A C. Radical Optimism by Dua Lipa. Dua Lipa. You might have seen a couple years ago, I posted a video about Dua Lipa where I had my Dua Lipa awakening. Just kind of have had my Tyla awakening this year. Really a big fan of her. Loved Future Nostalgia, and then I went back and watched or listened to her original album, Dua Lipa. The deluxe edition has a ton. Some I'm not a huge fan of, but for the most part, I love that album as well. And this one, I still really like. I don't think it goes near the tier of Future Nostalgia, but I really like it still. It's just her voice. I don't know. Her voice just hits. I remember when listening to this for the first time, I was like, this is kind of mid. But it grew on me in the same way that Ariana Grande albums tend to grow on me, that kind of thing. It's just like, if I love the voice, the other stuff will come with it, usually. I'll put it in B for now. Let's put her in B. How's that? This next one is an EP that I'm sure almost none of you have heard of, if any. And this is The 5 Stages by Michael Alvarado. Michael Alvarado was previously a part of a duo called Us the Duo. It was him and his wife Carissa for a good part of a little over 10 years they did that. Loved Us the Duo. Loved their sound. Their albums were great. And then there was a shocking breakup early in 2024. And Michael put this EP out. He said he had already rented out space in this time in the studio. And then he had just been broken up with by Carissa, and then decided, well, I'm going to use this time anyway, not waste it, and then he went to work writing this music. And let me just say it. First of all, it was a divorce. It was seemingly pretty messy based on the lyrics, and this song, it seems like she kind of fell in love with her best friend type of thing. then she made a whole post saying how he wasn't the best, the most supportive or anything. Like this whole thing, you know, the drama that always comes with it. So it's like, I really enjoyed this EP, and me really enjoy this EP doesn't mean like, you know, he's 100% in the right here or anything. You know, it's one of those things you never really know the full story. But what I got from this EP was like, this is his truth, and I really felt it. And I had such an emotional reaction to it, like more than any piece of music I feel like ever. I felt like it was so raw, really vulnerable, and I admired it for that, but also the musicality of it was surprisingly good for something he whipped up seemingly within a few days and on a whim. So I give him major props for that. It's really cool. It's 5 songs modeled after the 5 stages of grief that he was going through, grieving over the relationship that they lost. I thought it was beautiful, heartfelt, raw, vulnerable. And being in a relationship while I listened to it, it hit even more for me. It was like right time, and I still go back whenever I'm emotional. This is one I'll throw on. If I really want to just have a good cry, I'll throw this one on, and it usually works for me. I gotta give it S tier to stick it right at the top. I mean, it just, there's something amazing about it, and it's very small in scope. Not many people are going to hear it, but I think it deserves some credit for what it did. Like, wow. All right, here's what I was talking about. I have this big block of Jay-Z. Now, of course, I picked the best year to decide I'm going to go through and listen to Jay-Z's entire discography. I'm going to go album by album chronologically through his whole discography, because I've always been a kind of a fan of Jay-Z's music. I knew like a couple hits here and there, but never really took the time to listen to an album. So it was like, this is a new thing I wanted to do starting in 2024, was pick a select artist and then another artist, and then go through the whole discography, see the evolution, and consume it all. Jay-Z, I did that. I didn't make it all the way yet. And then, of course, all the controversy came out. Not that it really matters when it comes to the music. You know, there was an album with Jay-Z and R. Kelly in here as well. So it's like even better. But I don't have much to say on them, because I made the mistake of like kind of doing a lot of these back-to-back, these albums, and not really taking the time to assess them separately like I like to do with media I consume. So it's all like one big block for me, except for one little difference, you know. But it's hard for me to parse out what the good stuff is. So I'm really not going to be able to rank it properly, but I still want to have it represented here to give you a better vision of everything I listened to in the year. So yeah, the first album was Reasonable Doubt. Then we got In My Lifetime Volume 1. Then we have Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. Then we have Volume 3, Life and Times of S. Carter. Then we have The Dynasty, Rock La Familia. Now this is where we're going to stop for a bit, because The Blueprint is excellent. Like, that's S tier. Now, do I really believe all of Jay-Z's albums are C tier and then this one is S tier miraculously? No, I don't really. But it's hard for me to put the albums much higher, because there was a lot of good and the bad mixed in there. I remember there were some albums where I was like, not really feeling this one too much, but I can't parse it out, and I didn't have time to like re-listen to all the albums in preparation for this video, so I'm just gonna stick them all in C tier to be safe. But The Blueprint is the one that stood out to me. This is the one I'd heard on like Apple's like top 100 albums of all time or whatever. It's right in the top 10 or something, and so it always stood out to me. The Blueprint, I gotta hear what this one's all about. I've heard people talk about it before, and it is amazing. I think it's really cool. Easily the most solid. I was paying my notice of that, at least. I was like, this is easily the best of the Jay-Z albums. and one of my favorite albums, period. Now, this is one I'll go back to out of all of them. Then I was thinking, okay, now I'll mix in something completely different. I'll mix in the Beatles. I've never really listened to much Beatles except for the major hits, the ones that you just hear in the culture of music in general. I never sat down and listened to a Beatles album, so I wanted to start them as well. Those, I only made it 2 albums in with the Beatles. I need to get back to that. But that was the vision. The Beatles, the first one was Please Please Me. I'm going to kind of stick that in C as well. Alright, so here's the Best of Both Worlds with Jay-Z and R. Kelly. Let's just give that a D for the heck of it. And then we have The Blueprint 2, The Gift and the Curse. And then With the Beatles is the other Beatles album. I'm sticking them in here. It's a whole block. It's a Beatles are the bread, and then Jay-Z's got all the innards of this sandwich. There's still a couple more to add in there from Jay-Z. Oh, somehow this got back here. Hold on. Yeah, so I'm already going to make a better effort when I listen to albums in the new year. I'm going to take the time and write a quick review of each one, rating or whatever. I have an account on a site called musicboard.com, which lets you rate and review albums, songs, artists, whatever. It's similar to Letterboxd, if you know what that is, for movies. And so that's going to be my way to really isolate and appreciate each album separately. Alright, then we got the Blueprint 2.1, the Black Album, and this one, the Black Album acapella. Oh, it was technically... Oh, that's why I was down here. I technically watched this one much later. But the Black Album acapella, I can firmly put at the bottom of a D tier. Actually, let me just put that in F tier. I was like, I'm really going to be comprehensive. Not only am I going to listen to every album, literally every album. If you go into Apple, go into albums, and go through them. So the Black Album, and then there's the entire Black Album acapella version, which some artists do this for whatever reason, I don't know. But Jay-Z should not be one of them. It's very odd. It was very hard to get through because it just doesn't work with the music of that album is so strong. You take that out and it's like, wow, this really feels empty. And it's a lot of his ad libs. So it's like, yeah. There's a whole song that's it's really long and it's almost entirely ad libs. And I'm like, get me out of here. That was actual pain. So I'll give it an F. Straight up. Next up is Dopamine by Normani. Now, Normani, I had listened to, obviously I knew her from Fifth Harmony, and then I just really liked a couple of her songs, like Motivation. I just really liked the vibe, the sound. She's got a great voice, but I've always liked I've always liked her sound. And so I was like, let me check out this new album from her, Dopamine. And I thought it was incredibly mid, actually. Really nothing to write home about. I was kind of disappointed by it. There was only one good one. What was this song? And it was the basic one that already had a music video of. That was the only one that really stood out to me. Yeah, Wild Side with Cardi B. That's the only one that stood out to me, and it's still the only one that I remember. So for that, it might be a little harsh, but I'll put it in D. Next is The Death of Slim Shady. Now this is the shit right here. I mean, I love this album. I thought it was really cool. As a concept album, really cool. This battle between Eminem and his alter ego, Slim Shady. And it sounds corny when you say it like that, but it actually translates to a really thoughtful album. And there's some really thoughtful songs in here, but also really great rapping, just straight up. And I kind of admire how he like owns that. The joke is that he's too PC now, and it's like bring back Slim Shady and like don't go censor free, let it all out. And then Slim Shady's like this anti-woke type character, but he really makes the point to be like, no, with some of the stuff you said, Slim Shady, it's not right. So I found it funny watching people react to this album, and some of them did not get it at all. They were like all like, yeah, preach. Basically saying like preach to what Slim Shady was saying, but really that was the joke. Eminem's not anti-woke. He's actually pretty with it. So I kind of appreciate that about him. He owns it, and he actually like turns the whole thing on its head. You know, he's like, you think he's being like, oh, we're too woke now, this PC bullshit, yada yada, and then it's like, no, actually, we should be more careful about certain things, we say. And it's like, great. All right, so it's either S or A. I'm going to put in S. Love it. Next up, we got Ira Star. Her 2 albums she's done. Now, as I said, I was getting more into Afrobeats music and that whole vibe from Tyla. Ira Star, I had heard her music before when just listening to Afrobeats music. It had come up. I really like her voice. I like the whole vibe. And so I was like, let me check out her albums. Oh, she only has 2 of them. Very nice. I'll tear through them. So the first one's called The Year I Turned 21, which is actually the later album she does, which I think is really good. I'm going to put that in A. Love it. Love the vibe. There's a lot of really good songs that are really catchy. I don't know. There's something that's like cozy to me that to jam out to Afrobeats music, and Ira Star is like top of mind whenever I think that like something I want to just throw in the car for chill vibe. She's top of mind now. And so this album in particular is a standout. Her next album, which was her original album, 19 and Dangerous Deluxe. So I guess she did an album when she was 19 and then 21. This one, you can tell how much she kind of like developed her sound and grew just in the span of 2 years, because this one doesn't hit nearly the same. There's not nearly as many memorable songs. It's going to probably be a C for me. Yeah, let's put her at the bottom of C tier. It's not great. Pretty much, if I'm going to listen to Ira, it'll be the 21 album, and that's it. So, yeah, we need more music from Ira, but that's where the heat is. It's that one. Next up is an album called Alpha by Shenseea. Shenseea. She loves saying her name in every single song. This one, it can have some good sound, like a fun vibe to it sometimes, but really was not great to me. You know, it's really like, it's like a kind of Afrobeats, but like a more freaky tone to it. Like, she's freaky, which I don't mind in general. But if it's gonna be freaky and always talking about freaky stuff in every song, I at least want it to hit like musically, do something more. And just like none of the songs were standing out to me. Like, even now I can't think of a single song really. It all was just like, So for that, I'm gonna put her at the bottom of D tier. Next up is Joker Folia Do, the movie soundtrack. This is gonna go in F tier for a simple reason, and that's that I can't remember a single song. I can't remember a single like song, how it sounded. Because like I know they mostly did covers. Like That's Life, I know that's saying that a bit. But I can't even remember how it sounded. The movie was so like to me that the music already wasn't hitting then, so there was no way I was ever going to listen to the soundtrack. So yeah, let's put that in F. But at least there's something more than freaking acapella, the Black Album. Next up is Tyla Plus. It's Tyla plus a few songs, so it'll go up in S tier right above Tyla. I actually was surprised that when I first listened to Tyla Plus, I was surprised at how lacking the additions were. I thought it was pretty not great in terms of value. Like, to have a whole deluxe album, there was only a very few amount of songs added, and only one, which was Push to Start, really hit for me. There was a couple others that were decent, and the other ones were like, they were probably, let me say this. Push to Start, one of my favorite songs on the whole Tyla album. The other ones they added for Tyla Plus probably all go at the bottom of the songs on that album. So the value is not great, but at the end of the day, it's the same album plus more and one really good song in there. So obviously it's going to be one notch above Tyla. Next up is Wicked. We got 3 more soundtracks here to round things out. Wicked, iconic, amazing. It's S tier. I'm going to just put it at the top of S tier. I think it's really good. I think it's so fun. I keep bringing the music back up. The performances by Cynthia Erivo in particular and Ariana Grande, amazing. Seal the deal. Do I need to listen? Like, The Wizard and I is really good, but do I need to listen to Michelle Yeoh to get to the Cynthia Erivo part? That's the only thing I struggle with. Michelle Yeoh's part is like pretty mid, but other than that, it's pretty stellar stuff. Oh, and the Peter Dinklage song, I'll always skip that one. But other than that, it's a killer soundtrack, really. Moana 2, sorry, it's F tier. It's F tier because it was rough. Now, if you want to know my thoughts on any of these movies, actually all the movies that have soundtracks except for The Color Purple, I did a review of on Tarkrime with my friend Alec. It's a channel we do together. We do movie reviews, show reviews, game reviews, discussions, a lot of stuff. But we reviewed Moana 2. If you want to know my full thoughts on that, I did not like it at all. Thought it was pretty insulting. A step down from Moana. They really mishandled it. And then one takeaway, the biggest takeaway, is that the music, there was nothing there. It was not great. Like, Lin-Manuel Miranda's absence was really felt. It was felt here. So I would never listen to the soundtrack. There's nothing there. I can't remember a single song. Lastly, we got Mufasa. Now, this is a tough one. Mufasa has a couple fun ones, a couple weird ones. And overall, they're not the most standout songs. I'm inclined to put it in the C tier. And I think I will ultimately. At the top. Above Cowboy Carter, that's right. There's one, there's an iconic song. I always wanted to brother. And if you've seen that movie, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It hits like that. It kind of hits. It's kind of goofy. But there's some really good ones in there. Some not so good ones. Overall, I think it does a good job matching the tone of the movie and really keeps that same energy. I love it. In the movie itself, I love the African-inspired music in the background and everything. So as much of that we can get infused in the music, the better. And it's not too much, but it still fits the vibe. There you have it. Let's not overthink it too much. I don't want to really stress it and rearrange things. There's my tier list of albums I listened to for the first time in 2024. What do you think? What do you think of my placements on these? Again, the big obnoxious Jay-Z block really could have been taken out and you'd get a more clear picture of my arrangement here. But moving forward, I'm going to make a more conscious effort, so I'll have something to say about each album, a little more nuanced than this when it comes to that part there. Just a huge chunk of Jay-Z. But overall, the ones at the top are ones I'll remember and love forever. S tier, A tier, and B tier, all really good. But I gotta make an effort to listen to more. I love music, and I just don't experience enough. I didn't listen to a single new K-pop album this year, and it's mostly pop. little bit of rap. Well, a lot of rap from Jay-Z, but then a little bit of other rap, Afro beats. I really like R&B, so it would be cool to get some more R&B in the mix. I want to kind of really run the gamut on different genres and different sounds. I would love to do that in the new year. Let's see what I can get to. I don't have a number of albums in mind, but it's like albums are like that. Of course, with the way I want to do it now, to be able to talk about them properly, I want to give them a little more time, but a little more focus, to not just have them on the background and then I forget about them and then I just have a whole ton of albums that I don't know what to do with. But still, they're pretty quick to get through compared to a lot of other media. And so I don't have any excuses. I could be tearing through at least an album or two a week, really, realistically. Like, it should be a huge list of albums at the end of the year. I won't do that, I know myself, but we'll see what I can get to. All right. Thank you for joining and checking out the video. I'm going to have more content on the way in the new year. All right. That's a New Year's resolution for me. More content, more different projects in the works. And yeah, love you guys.